Great. Okay, Weston.
All right, welcome to EDU Office Hours. It is Thursday, April 13th. Please let me introduce our hosts.
Hi, everybody. I am Heather Cox. Hey, everyone. Stephanie Stevens.
And Victoria Dean.
And I'm Andrea Singrio, and I'm so excited to have Craig and Pragmatic Works with us today. So I'm going to hand it over to Craig to get us started here.
Perfect. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Glad to be back. I brought some friends this time, so I'm smart enough to know if I keep coming, I bring friends and everybody wins. So what we want to talk about today is one of the challenges that we've discovered. So we've built an app, and I want to talk through kind of the history of building that app and how we got to where we are. I have the partner I have with me is Pragmatic Works, Brian and Jeremy. We'll talk a little bit about them. We'll do a demo of the app that was built, and we'll talk about some other use cases that are already available. So over the past year, what we've learned when it comes to adopting Power Platform specifically, we're running into challenges with IT around governance, center of excellence. So IT is saying, there's no way I'm turning this loose in my environment until we have the proper center of excellence and governance. So there's getting some pushback on that front. The citizen developer community tends to be folks that have picked it up and done it in addition to their day job. So they have a responsibility, but they're figuring things out along the way. And then we're finding we're having a lot of conversations around ideation, not a whole lot of what's next. And then I just tapped on it, staff capacity. So everybody has a day job. We're not seeing a ton of schools and universities with a dedicated Power Platform administrator type role. They're starting to come, but we haven't seen that many of them. So what we've kind of come up with is an effort to accelerate adoption. So started to come up with some apps and some ideas to create apps that are pretty far along, need some configuration, maybe some adjustment, maybe a day's worth of time, a couple days worth of time, depending on the use case. And then from there, you're ready to go. So you can take and use that. The first one we came up with, actually, before we get to that, I'm going to throw it to Brian to talk about Pragmatic Works and who they are.
Sure. Oh, here we go. I am on mute. I'm on mute. I assume I was muted here. My name is Brian Knight from Pragmatic Works. We're a training company here based in Jacksonville, Florida, and we specialize in really enabling your team to learn the Power Platform and the Azure Stack. We've been doing this about 16 years now. All of our folks we have a lot of authors on the staff and a lot of YouTube people. My personal passion is the Power App side of the house. And so we've built a lot of apps. We've built probably hundreds of apps over the past two or 3 years. And we do that a number of ways. Craig, do you want me to share my slide, or you want to keep on your slide?
Yeah, well, let's just go through the training, some of the training. So I think the big thing to keep in mind is Pragmatics is a training partner. So all of their efforts are centered around training and supporting training efforts. And I know, don't want to get into too far down into this conversation, but there's a training opportunity available for folks. And so here's some of the things that they offer and do around training.
Awesome. Yes. So we have a number of ways we help. One of the ways is something called a hackathon. And the hackathons where we teach your team, I actually recognize quite a few faces in the audience and names in the audience. We teach your team with your own business problem. One of the problems we've been seeing over and over again are folks that want to build checklist application, which kind of feeds into what we're going to show today. We also do things like the Admin in a Day class, where if you have an IT organization that is struggling to let you do Power Platform, then that is around laying out your organization, your tenant for success in the Power Platform. So it's less of a class and more of a workshop where we're making changes live in your environment, or at least getting them on videotape where you can do them once you have a change control window. And then lastly, we have boot camps, and about in our on-demand platform, we have about 90 or so classes on there if you like more of the asynchronous learning. Craig?
So the app we built, this checklist app that Brian's talking about, we were trying to identify what's something we can do that's immediate. There's a time event associated to it. And my wife is a teacher. We have a lot of educators. And so the prospect of end of year checklist. So before I leave for the summer, I need to do X, Y, and Z. in a university before I check out of the dorm or any type of closing or things like that. So we identified a few use cases in the school district environment. There are usually some spreadsheet or Word document that teacher has to go around almost like a scavenger hunt, find somebody to sign off on different things. And until the principal signs off, they can't leave. So we came up with that as the use case. And we rolled that out. We've already had one customer who's taken advantage of that. So Brian did a hackathon with this district. They went through the exercise of identifying their requirements. We were able to layer in this checklist app. And what they're going to use it for is their charter schools. So they had 55 charter schools that have to, each scoring period, submit information in order to stay on track. I think it's 60 columns worth of data that they were planning to use Excel to capture and track. So we used the checklist app. Brian helped build a front end Power page. So the users will be able to do that. And it will save the internal team at least 3 days per scoring period just with the data collection and management. It's replacing a solution they're using today. And I think if they're not live, they should be any day now. So we're already seeing some components to that. Brian, I'm going to hand it over to you if you want to do a walkthrough of the checklist.
Sure,
piece.
sure, absolutely. So I had a few slides myself, just kind of show you the components that are here. Craig's done a great job of teeing it up, so I'll skip the use cases. But we mentioning like an HR use case, but it can be used for any type of use cases like offboarding of employees, onboarding of employees. The components of it are essentially, the steps are you install a set of UI components, then you install the checklist solution, and then you configure the tables. These are the components that we're using. We have a model-driven application in Power Apps for the configuration of it, for the administrator to kind of see, here's the kind of templates I'm building out. Your team will use a Canvas application to actually use that, and then all this data is stored in Dataverse. So the example that Craig was mentioning, the advantage of us using Dataverse is then we can also extend that to something like Power Pages. Like he mentioned before, charter schools don't necessarily have access to yourdomainname.com. So in this case, we're able to extend that past just the district also. And we also use some Power Automations for notifying a user they have a task list and for automated approvals there as well. So I'll jump right into my demo. Just want to kind of show you what we're using. And just to show you also, this is what Craig was referring to earlier. This is his wife's checklist. This is kind of what we're trying to recreate here. This Word doc that's a scavenger hunt. And Craig's example also was a lot of the teachers, a lot of the principals and whatnot, kind of bolted in the year, and the teachers are just desperately trying to get this checklist. So it's kind of a game of cat and mouse here in this case. So we try to avoid that in this example. So what I'm going to show you real quick is kind of how you can proceed, like where you can get the files to start with, and the configuration of those. And we can do those with things like hackathons to kind of customize it for your needs there also. So in this environment, I've got the first file installed, the UI components. That was step one. Step two is I'll go ahead and install this checklist application. It will ask me a few questions, and I have a little video piece around that as well. So as you do this, it'll ask you just a few questions, and then you're off to the races. You'll find those files on our GitHub site that you see here. So the universal checklist is right here with the video instructions on how to install it. We haven't put a nice thumbnail there. And then the UI components, the point of this is to simplify future Power Apps developments you may do also. So a lot of things like tabs and headers and footers and menu structures. It will help not just this application, but future applications you want to build. Once you have that, there's really two steps left. My first step, I'm going to open up the model-driven application, and I'm going to create a new checklist. This checklist, I'll go ahead and create. I'll call this one employee separation, maybe. A little more grim than Craig's example. All right. Oop, and I cannot spell today. Separation. There we go. Oh, God. Good Lord. All right. Let's use spell check. I'm not paid for my spelling ability, I guess. So once I have that checklist now there, I have two of them here. Let me go ahead and kill. Oh, I don't know which one's which. All right, I'll kill this one. All right, so once I have that out there, my next step is I want to create the items that belong to that checklist as well. All right, so I'll go over my items table right here, and I'll start adding some items for that separation. So first of all, I've got, let's see here. I want to receive the key. I can put whatever description I want underneath that. And then I also have a checklist item for exit interview. And then, you know, whatever. So, and I can keep on going and add more and more items in there. After I have that done, I can also group them together, much like you saw in Craig's Word doc, where we had that those kind of groupings of each section right here as well. If you wanted to create groups, we can do that right here, where I have an item for my HR team. And I can say this belongs to our employee separation one. And then I also have one for maybe the security team. And that belongs to employee separation also. Great. And my final step to do is to go ahead and kind of bring it all together to where basically create a recipe of how this checklist all works together and who owns each of these items. To do that, this is the administrator doing it or the developer doing it. I'm doing this without having to do any code at all is the main important thing. I've already done all the coding for you. And yes, you're going to want to customize this and make it your own, but largely this is getting you to the 50-yard line or maybe even the 20-yard line. So my first piece here, let's do the employee separation. I'm going to put this in the security teams group, and I have an item here for receive the key. On the right, I can put an order to it, and on the right side, you can see who owns this. Does the person that's creating the checklist own it, or they deliver the key? And who also owns this, or who actually approves this? Is approval required? So I can say, yes, I handed the key, and the manager actually says they acknowledges they got the key, for example. Or I can set this to a security person or whatever. So it's very flexible about the ownership of it as well. I'll create one more here. This will be my template again, employee separation. The group will be security team. And how about I do one for the exit interview? That belongs to HR, doesn't it? Exit interview. And this will be owned by a certain person, maybe in this case. It won't be by myself. It'll be by HR team, which is going to be Chuck White in this case. And then I don't have an approval required in this case. So when I save this, I did a small one here just to have the 2 items, but you get the idea. You keep on adding and adding and adding. So the work you'll do, and you'll see in the video for the installation, is right here. This is the work you're going to do to kind of establish your checklist without any coding at all. But once you have that checklist done, now we're ready for the fun experience. Well, not for an employee separation, but fun experience for just the checklist side in general. I'm going to play this application, and this is a Canvas application. This is that pixel perfect. You have a blank canvas, and you can put whatever you want to on this. What we deliver to you in the installation is something that looks like this. And you can change things as you want, change the colors, you do whatever you want to do in this. And of course, that's what our hackathons do. We customize it to your own business requirements too. But once I play this, we'll go ahead and I'm going to create a new checklist for somebody's offboarding. So I'm going to go ahead, and this checklist is going to be for my brother Devin, who's on the phone right now. I don't really care for that guy. And I'm going to go ahead and do my employee separation. Where'd it go? There it is. Once I do that, we'll see our 2 items right here. I only did 2 items in my formula. You can see this one needs a manager approval. It's owned by self. This one's going to be owned by a certain individual. I can then go ahead and put whatever I want to in here, jerk. And I can also put his employee ID, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have some kind of reference number I can base it on that. After that's all done, I'll hit create. My checklist is now created, and now this work can now start. So the piece you're seeing here in Craig's example would be the principal going out and creating a whole bunch of checklists for all her teachers. In this case, it might be the HR team initiating a separation or whomever. But I'd have one checklist that the administrator is basically kicking off and taking that template we created earlier and copying all that data over you're seeing below. A more mature one you might see in Craig's example was this, let's see here, was this one teacher in the year checklist. This is a more mature example where you can see all the different examples of each of those items that Craig's wife owns. So now I'm ready to go and start doing work against this. So to start doing work, I'm going to go over to my work area, and we'll see a list of all the work that I own, including my, it's all sorted by my to-do list here. Where is my jerk one here? There's my employee 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. So I can, oh, that's not it. All right, where'd it go? Oh, I made this checklist for Devin, didn't I? All right, let me go ahead and impersonate him. Now, you may have noticed I did a impersonation. So the goal of this was to make sure that if we're going to do this, I need to be, if I get assigned a task and I'm on vacation, or I am, my assistant wants to do this, then I need to make sure that other people are allowed to do this also. So we created in the ability to do delegation. On the left side, you're seeing who can impersonate me. So my assistant can impersonate me, Devin, and then everybody else. When he's not waxing my car and those, he's my brother, by the way, in case you're curious. Additionally, on the right side are people that I can impersonate. So Devin can impersonate me and vice versa in this case. And I can add other users. So it creates a team kind of concept here. So once I do that, I can go to my work and I can see all the items that Devin owns and so everybody that I can impersonate in this case. So as I kind of go through this, let's see, where's my teacher separation? I don't think I actually created that. I think it actually was done by Devin, wasn't it? There we go. But somewhere in here, there he is, employee separation jerk at the bottom here. All right, so I received the key. I can go ahead and mark that as complete in this case, or I can actually look at the details of it and find out the description we added earlier, what employee it's related to. I can see that I'm waiting for an approval for this because Devin is Devin works for me technically. I can put what the Devin, I'm impersonating Devin and go ahead and put my comments in there. I can also say, you know what, Devin's out of town right now. Let me go ahead and reassign this to somebody else right now. So you can do that. But once I mark it as complete, it then will light up for me as the manager to approve it. Like right now, I'm impersonating Devin, so I don't see that item right there for me. But if I change back to me, Devin's item then comes back to my area where I can then approve it there as well. I can also just go through and start completing these items, just 1, 2, 3, and marking them off and approving them. And it's triggering emails that go out if I wanted them to trigger. By default, those emails are turned off because it's kind of chatty, right? It's putting things in people's list, and we don't want it to be too adventurous there. So as I go through, you're seeing exactly Craig's list here, for those types of things. And additionally, if I go over, I can see a list of all the checklists that I own, which ones have been completed. This error you're seeing, by the way, is saying that that there's no manager right now above me. So it's I'm the founder of the company, so it's the end of the road. It's using Azure AD because Azure AD to find out who the hierarchy of the organization is. So when I say that this is approved by the manager, it will go ahead and create a record all that automatically out there for me and my manager when I open up the application. That way I can mark something as approval for my manager and it automatically goes to the right part. So as I go through this, you can see all the ones that have been done. I can go back and see history of who did what, when they did it, and go get all the details of it. And I can see items that are still out there pending. You see, I don't have anything to do here, but I'm waiting for Devin to approve these 2 items right here. So that's why it's marked as complete, not complete or complete here. So as I kind of go through this, we can see that how fast we can really produce these things without any coding at all. So we've started with that with a checklist from blank and actually delivered that checklist into a few minutes here also. Now, this is, of course, a starter kit, right? So it's not, people always need more with this. So the more part, when you get this app, you'll have a designer experience like this. It's how you design Canvas applications, where you can change your colors and do all those types of things very, very easily. To install this, you simply go out to our GitHub site, where you'll find that guy doing a video on how to install it. You click on this release right here, and it will give you the install bits right here. It's managed code. So you basically download those bits right there. There we go. Once it comes in, perfect. Then you'll go over to an environment of your choice. It does require Dataverse. Go to an environment of your choice. It's a fresh environment. You just browse out that file that I just downloaded. Oh, that is not what I just downloaded. Let me go back out there again. And there it is. Once you find that file, just hit next, and then next again. It'll ask you a few questions, like where's the connection to your systems? This is a fresh environment, so I have not created connections yet. I'll just hit the new connection button twice, and it'll ask me to refresh after it pops up. Hit create. There it goes. It just wants to make sure it's connecting with the right account that you want to connect with. Off to the race here. And then one more time for the approvals. And then you're done. So after I do this last connection, You just have to configure it then, and you can use the example from this video we just did a moment ago to actually configure it also. And then the customization part starts, right? So I want to use these colors. I don't want just a yes, no, did it complete, did it not complete? I want a file upload. I want somebody to answer a question back, not just did they turn their key in, but what was a key number there in that case? So those types of things will require some customization, but largely, hopefully, we're getting you the 20-yard line. I want to make sure I open up for questions as well, and you'll see this will just import for the next about 5 minutes or so, and then I'm ready to start the actual customization process. So Craig, hopefully that was a good starting point there. Let's open up for any kind of questions. And I'll open up my slides one more time also in the background. There's some QR codes right there that you can scan of all the different services that we have. With the hackathon example, the hackathon's where we teach you with your own business problems, and we've done gosh, dozens and dozens of those with higher ed and school districts and even schools. That's one of the coolest parts. And then also the app, the admin in the day one is a really handy one for getting IT more comfortable with the Power Platform, securing it, making sure governance is turned on, and those types of things. I see Scott, you have a question?
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear kind of where the art is leading us as far as like without like quota management and resource management outside of the Teams Dataverse environment. What are the best practices that are happening, and what are your customers doing to deal with the overwhelming cost of Dataverse? I can't quote the exact price as I understand it, but we're well north of 300 even at our discount per gigabyte per year. And I now have almost 2 terabytes of data.
Oh, wow.
And so trying to understand outside that team interface, which does constrain, what are people doing to manage those costs since Microsoft isn't giving us any tools to manage those?
Well, better archival is one way. They're actually turning on automated archivals here, Scott, as well, to where you can take hot data and pull it down, put it in the cool location, essentially. So that kind of moving data to data lake is what I'm seeing oftentimes, is getting that 2 terabytes or terabytes of data down. What Scott's referring to is for every license of Power Apps, you get about 250 megs of space per licensed user of Power Apps. Additionally, if you license it per app, you get 50 megs. Outside of that, you have to, and you get some core space, of course, as well. Outside of that, you basically have to license it by gig. It's pretty rare to need it by gig unless you're really active, and you guys are obviously really, really active in your usage. The approach that I do, Scott, is some of that data that, imagine you have a student information system, and you got hundreds of gigs somewhere, right? One of the new features in Dataverse is the ability to link to outside tables. You may have seen this when you're looking at a solution the other day. Let's go over here real quick, and you'll see when I go to table, one of the options is table from external data. This allows you to link to SQL Server, SharePoint, and have that as your live data, but it looks like a Dataverse table. And as you delete a record, if the security access allows it, it will push that delete right back to the source system, or things like inserts and updates as well. So that way you're kind of having your cake and eating it too. You're not having to synchronize all that data in the Dataverse. You can have some data hot and then some data in Dataverse also.
Right. And the SQL part, I think, is great. The problem is that gives me another expenditure because that's a premium feature. But
well, keep in mind, this actually is not, when I'm saying this is going to show up in Dataverse like any other table. So
right.
you're already paying for that Dataverse license. There's no additional cost to link to external tables in that example.
I thought all SQL connectors were premium.
That's true. If you have an app that's only using SQL Server, only using Dataverse, you're a premium app. But since you're using Dataverse, you're already paying for that premium license, right? So it's just a way. Your question was about how do we optimize it. That's one way you can optimize. Yeah.
I just flashed up there. These are other use cases that Brian and team have developed. So similar to the checklist, pretty much ready to go with some adjustments. So these are other use cases they've done with existing customers. And so the last piece before we go, Jeremy would be the best person to reach out with and coordinate on. Let's talk more about it. Let's talk about what a hackathon could look like. Let's talk about what questions there are. So Pragmatic
we
is a tremendous partner for us and are talking to several of our customers.
They're
Awesome.
the best. I've taken a lot of courses from them myself. But are we going to let Jeremy introduce himself real quick? I don't think we've even given him a second to say hi to everybody.
No, that's okay. I mean, my name's Jeremy Soroy, so I've just been blessed that Brian and Devin have kept me around for about 15 years. I'll be the point person for any communication for anyone on the call. Brian and Devin are very approachable, but in addition to running the company, they also they teach the courses, lead the hackathons, and write the content. So I'm here to help field and keep kind of the communication going, because sometimes there's a delay there if you just try to ping them directly. So that's a little bit about me. But Brian, Devin, and we have a wealth of other architects and trainers on the team who all contribute here.
And I also
Fantastic. I just wanted you to get a second there, Jeremy.
Thank you so much.
I also put the download link, the GitHub link in the chat window. This was all the Craig, would you go back one slide there? These oh, there you go, right there. These quite a few of these apps are on our GitHub site. There's a K-12 kit we built that has things like a hall pass app and a gamification app for K-12 for teachers, and formative learning app. Those are all available in our K-12 kit. Those are power apps for teams in those cases. In that case. Cool. Thank you,
This
Craig.
was fantastic. It's always great to see you, Brian, and everybody from Pragmatic Works. I love seeing the razzing each other in the chat. It's fantastic. And Craig, thanks for always being willing to come and be on with us and bringing friends. You know, we like to get you on at least once a quarter, if not more. So
It's cute that you make it sound like I have a choice.
Right. I was going to say, you're such a good voluntold participant.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, what are you doing on this day? Because guess I know what you're doing. So,
Right.
But I'll play along. You're welcome anytime. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I thank you, everybody. We will see you again next week. We are not taking the week off. So thank you for coming. I'm going to stop the recording. We'll get this posted.